We have a surprise guest amongst us today. Rabbi David Feldman. I just met him yesterday in the march in DC, and he remembered me from my Zionism speech, and then we had a conversation, and he was kind enough to come over here at such a short notice. So he's going to talk to you and express his views on Zionism. Please go on.
Thank you very much, Doctor. We know each other for a long time, and it's an honor for us to be here and to address you all. Thank you for all the previous speakers. I must say I learned a lot, even though I'm in this situation, in this activism for a very long time, but we always learn more. Brother Sami's remarks was, I don't know how to describe this, but maybe sad or heartbreaking. Despite all that I know from the past and I experienced with my own eyes, maybe I'll have a minute to speak about this. I was told to be very brief, and it's very difficult, but I'll try. I would like to reflect on what Dr. Mousavi said before in his presentation about the Zionist claim, which is a true concept. The promised land, God promised the land for the Jewish people, and then if I may comment on that line on the screen that says that the Neturei Karta position is that today we are forbidden to have a land and we are waiting for the Messiah. I have to clarify. And this is very important because people need to understand this, because many times this is a conversation that naturally comes up when anybody speaks about Palestine. Nobody wants to fight God. Nobody wants to fight religion. And nobody wants to fight the Jewish religion. Then when one presents to you, well, is the promised land, God promised it to the Jewish people. First of all, what I say always is, you have to be religious in order to use that claim. You have to follow the religion that you claim. We find ourselves in a situation which is very embarrassing, where you find a movement which is officially secular. They don't deny it. It's officially secular, a movement, a group of people that by choice refuse to follow God and refuse to follow His religion. And then they misuse that very same religion in order to justify crimes forbidden in the same religion. And this is hypocrisy. And just to explain, I'll be very brief. Yes, there is a true concept that God promised the land to the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is according to Judaism. But there is a second side to the coin that nobody speaks about. This land was given to the Jewish people on condition. There's a verse twice in the Torah which says, you should not, the land should not reject you because you defile it. Unfortunately, what happened after the promise was fulfilled, after the Jewish people were brought into the Holy Land, and we believe that we were brought into the Holy Land by God, not by our physical might. The Jewish people were warned by God through the prophets, unless we keep in the level of holiness God requires of us, if we won't, we'll be expelled from the land. Unfortunately, this is what happened. And all of this is full of verses in the books of the prophets, which is basics of Judaism. And here's the point. All Jews throughout all generations, without any exception, believed in a concept of a divinely decreed exile, that the Jewish people were exiled from the land after that promise was fulfilled. Now, all Jews believed in this until the beginning of the movement of Zionism over 100 years ago, where again, people, not only secular people, heretics who hated God and refused to follow His religion, they came up with this new philosophy of ending God's decree by physical means, which is blasphemy in Judaism. This is just to understand what we are dealing. Now, the claim of the Promised Land is a true concept used in propaganda turning the back to God and His decrees, and basically, according to Judaism, this is true blasphemy. Coming to what Brother Sami described, what is happening in Gaza, we feel the pain of the Palestinian people. I visited Gaza with a delegation of rabbis in 2009 after the beginning of the siege. We witnessed at the time the destruction, the pain, the families that lost so many relatives. We had tears in our eyes as I had when Brother Sami was talking. This is heartbreaking. Every righteous person should be disturbed by just listening to these stories, seeing what is happening in the news. But it's us as Jewish people. We are way more disturbed because unfortunately, sadly, all of this is being done supposedly in our name. And on top of this, as mentioned before, sadly our religion is being misused to justify all these crimes. As Sister Sarah mentioned before, from the river to the sea, people think that all of this is about religion, all of this is about wiping out the Jewish people. We have to overcome, we have to know better than that. We have to realize, all of us have to be very clear. There is no war, there is no, all what's going on is not because of a difference of religion. We had a difference of religion for the longest time, way before the Zionist movement came in. Well, problems were already before 1948, before the creation of the State of Israel. But going back to the 1920s, before then, Jewish people lived in peace in many Muslim countries. Palestine was an excellent example. We were a small minority of Jews amongst the majority of the Muslims. Without the human rights, without the United Nations, the Muslims could have killed us all. And it didn't happen. The Jewish people were respected, were protected. We shouldn't fall into that propaganda that a difference of religion is a reason and a cause for conflict. We have to remember a great difference between Judaism and Zionism. Judaism is a religion only. This is an old ancient religion. Nothing about politics, nothing about nationalism. It's about the belief in God and practicing His commandments. This new, relatively new movement of Zionism is a transformation of Judaism from a religion into a nationalism, void of religion. In other words, God forbid, you no longer have to follow God in order to be Jewish. And this is a tragedy for our religion. The Zionist movement is doing everything they can to have people believe, and I'm talking about the Jewish people and the non-Jewish people, the Muslim people and the world at large, have them believe that Judaism and Zionism is one and the same. Why? First of all, they want to have the Jewish people believe that in order to be Jewish, you have to support the State of Israel. If you don't support the State of Israel, then you're what? You're a traitor. And by doing so, they gain support from so many ignorant people who are not really properly educated in Judaism, and they think that this is what Judaism is. And I always say, you have so many people, I'm sorry to say, I consider them innocent. After all this massive propaganda, they have no ability even to overcome this propaganda. And they don't know any better than that. I'm not justifying anything. But this is very sad. As a Jewish person, I see this and I'm very sad about this. We do everything we can to educate those people. And then the general public, or the pro-Palestinian movement, they want to drive people to confuse the two, to confuse the two, Zionism, Judaism and Zionism, because they want you to become anti-Semitic, and then they silence you. And this is something that we shouldn't allow. We have to be very clear. When we are speaking about crimes committed, we should criticize those crimes, but we are criticizing the crimes taking place. We are not criticizing a people, a general people. And this is very important because we have to overcome this massive propaganda. I have to add, it was mentioned before that us or other Jewish people are humans and we are standing up for humanity. Yes, we are, and yes, we do. And we are proud to do so. But our standing up for humanity is our religion. It's our religious duty to stand up for the oppressed and to condemn those crimes, especially when it's being done in our name and in the name of our religion. And I'll conclude. When we are witnessing all what's happening, first of all, I have to add, we have to realize, and many people, the mainstream media would never tell you the proper story of Palestine. They would never tell you the proper story of the opposition to Israel, to the occupation. Today, with alternative media, people know much better, but it's worth mentioning this. There are masses of Jewish people worldwide, including in occupied Palestine, who are totally opposed to this occupation, not just from October 7th. As was mentioned before, this story didn't start at October 7th. This is going on for 75 years and even before. This brutal occupation, this anti-Jewish occupation, is against Judaism, and masses of Jewish people oppose it. And it's a whole long discussion how our people in today's Israel are being oppressed in a terrible way just for speaking up, for raising the Palestinian flag, which was, I'll tell you just a short story that happened, I believe, a week ago, where since October 7th, maybe you're aware, it has become illegal in Israel to mention anything about Palestine. If you post a social media post with any support of Palestine, it's officially illegal. They can arrest you for that. Still in all, we had a march going on the streets of Jerusalem with Palestinian flags. Palestinian flags were raised on the buildings, painted on the walls. People were arrested. The synagogue was vandalized. Scholars were dragged out of synagogue during studies. And this is going on all the time. This is not only now. And we have to realize what is going on. Again, coming to the conclusion, if we are truly concerned for the future, for the safety and security of all, and we say this here, we say this for the world, we stand out outside and we address our politicians in the United States and world leaders, we have to realize that the situation we are in today didn't start at October 7th. This is an ongoing brutal occupation which sadly resulted in all what we are seeing happening. We don't condone violence, none of us do, but unfortunately we have to face reality. As the Secretary General of the United Nations said just recently, what happened October 7th was not out of a vacuum. Unfortunately, this is a result of this brutal occupation going on. As a human being, as a religious Jew, I say that if we truly want to stop all of this, we have to stop this occupation in its entirety. And as human beings here in this room, we all agree. We lived in peace before all of this started. We have to use the past history as an example to teach us how the future is supposed to look like and how it can look like. We hope, we strongly hope, we pray to Almighty God that this occupation stops in its entirety. We hope that this stops peacefully with no more suffering of anyone. And at that time, we see the future, how nice and how beautiful it will be, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Rabbi Feldman of Net Jakarta. To do a program like this, you...
Rabbi David Feldman from Neturei Karta International addressed the How to Discuss Palestine event at Masjid-e-Ali in southwest New Jersey on November 5th, 2023. There was no better way to start this, because for those Jewish people who still believe the Mizora exists, it can only exist with Neturei Karta, and that is actually materially proven. So even if you don't agree that there is still a Mizora, what would definitely, like culturally throughout, like basically, the truth is if you look back at Jewish history, any attempt to take out Neturei Karta is cultural genocide. They are the remnant of what. They are the remnant of the succession of the generations, quite literally. Chabad Lubavitch is not, on the other hand, and that gets into a whole different field of things. Anyway, this next video is titled "Rabbi Speaking Up for Palestine at CCYN." The headline reads, Rabbi David Feldman addressing a rally for Palestine at City College of New York on October 31st, 2023. By the way, you are listening to Not in Our Name, Part 2 of 2.
Our next speakers, I would like to thank and introduce Jews United Against Zionism, Rabbi David Feldman.
Thank you. Yes, we are angry. It's because we are humans. We stand here on the CCNY campus as human beings, and we condemn this genocide taking place in Gaza, where we witness, where we see so many innocent men, women, and children mass murdered. This is criminal and has to stop. As Jewish people, we are here joining you all. It's because we are Jews. It's because we know what suffering is. It's our communities, it's our families who suffered in the Holocaust. We know what suffering is, and we don't want to see this happen to anyone. It is because we are Jews. And sadly, all these crimes are being committed supposedly in our name. We stand up and we condemn what is taking place today and what is going on already for over 75 years.
Free Jews from Israel!
Let me tell you, we have masses of Jewish people worldwide, here in the United States and in occupied Palestine, who publicly condemn this occupation from its inception. Unfortunately, now in these days, it has become criminal to mention anything about Palestine. Our community went out on the streets of Al-Quds, Jerusalem, with Palestinian flags. They were arrested. Their synagogue was vandalized. Scholars were dragged out in the middle of studying. This is what happens to our people. But we have to realize that the state of Israel does not represent all Jews, and certainly the Jewish religion does not condone all these violence, these crimes which are not only criminal according to international law, these are violations of Jewish law as well. But the Zionist movement wants to make you believe that all of this is the same. They want to confuse Judaism with Zionism. Judaism is a religion which has nothing to do with politics or with occupation. To confuse this with today's Zionism, which is a purely political criminal movement. Why do they conflate the two? Because they want you students, they want to blame you. If you stand up for righteousness, if you stand up for justice, if you stand up to condemn
these crimes, they want to make people believe that you are anti-Semitic. This is not the case. One should condemn crimes. One should stand up and defend the oppressed. Embarrassingly enough, when we find that the perpetrators of these crimes are from Jewish descent, it's sad and it's embarrassing to us as Jews. But this should be condemned and should never be confused with anti-Semitism. Students on campus should have the freedom to speak up and to express their consciousness and to speak up for their families and their people. This is basics of freedom of speech. Unfortunately, what we are witnessing today, this genocide didn't start on October 7th. Unfortunately, this is an outcome. We don't condone violence, but this is sadly an outcome of over 75 years of brutal, unending occupation. If we truly want to address the issue, if we truly are concerned about the safety and security of all, we should realize and understand what is the root cause of this conflict. Nobody should believe that the difference of religion is the cause for conflict. We had differences of religion for the longest time, and we did not have conflict. We lived in peace in so many Muslim countries. A minority of Jews lived in peace and respect amongst the majority of Muslims. Palestine was a perfect, beautiful, excellent example. Unfortunately, this was destroyed about 100 years ago when the movement of Zionism first came in. We have to understand, we have to realize what the root cause is. This is the occupation. This occupation has to stop in its entirety. And once this stops, we can hope and expect that we would see a nicer future. We can see that beautiful peace that did exist. Let's hope that this be the future. Inshallah, God willing. Thank you very much.
Not in your name! Not in your name! Not in your name! Not in your name! Not in your name!
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Occupation no more.
Occupation no more.
5, 6, 7, 8.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Israel is not a Jewish state.
Israel is not a Jewish state.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
State of Israel no more.
State of Israel no more.
5, 6, 7, 8.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Stop the killing. Stop the hate.
Stop the killing. Stop the hate.
Thank you very much.
This one's a bit shorter, but it's good to see just how much energy there is in this. Judaism, yes. Zionism, no. The state of Israel must go. This next thing you're about to see is a march for Gaza from CUNY, College of Times Square on November 2nd, 2023. So this leads me to the continuation of Here and Now, which was left to be continued on the previous video. So as the first major grand feature for Not in Our Name Part 2 of 2 will be continuation from yesterday's conversation we have with this Dr. Abraham Weisfeld and his friend Ahmed from Palestine, and Steve Struggle, an original Black Panther. This came out. This came out and was posted on October 21st, 2023.
Here and now, here we are. Okay, Palestine is in a state of revolution and counter-revolution. You know, I've looked at a video of the Stalingrad, film made by Mosty Video, the Red Army video, and it was incredible, seeing that they showed, the defense of Stalingrad, in which,
Yes.
The superior military force encircled, the city, and yet they managed to attack and repulse the invasion. And I was thinking, if Israel ever tries to invade Gaza City, that it would turn into a Stalingrad for Israel, because they couldn't, withstand, the force of a determined nation against a bunch of, conscripted youth, who don't even want to be there.
I was listening to one of the military commentator. His name is Scott Ritter. He used to be a Marine, ex-Marine Corps. And he says what the Israeli doing is stupid. He said reducing Gaza to rubble, okay? And they think they're going to go inside with their tanks. They don't know that the rubbles and it will be excellent for urban warfare.
Okay.
That's what happened to the Nazis. The Nazis they reduced most of Stalingrad to rubble. And actually, there was one of the generals told the Hitler not to bomb Stalingrad because we will have hard time taking it over. He said, "No, you don't know what you're doing. We're gonna do that." So what they did is the same thing for Volgograd, okay, which is called I think I don't know
Stalingrad, yeah.
yeah. So basically, what the Israelis have already done, actually, they gave, militarily speaking, I'm talking, of course, the advantage to the Palestinian freedom fighters to swallow them, basically, crush them, because you can't do much with your tanks and APCs, okay, armored personnel carrier, in an urban that is rubble. And those people, these guys have Hornets and RPGs, and they're coming from the tunnels, so the Israelis will have to face many casualties, huge casualties, the Zionists. Yeah, so that's too bad for them. They asked for it. They are. I don't think. It's been 14 days since the heroic breakdown of the ghetto doors, or so and the Zionists been saying we are going to go inland, on land, and every time there's one day they said the weather is not good, it's raining. The other day they said, oh, the United States. The third day they said it's been 14 days, they haven't got in yet. My hunch, I'm not a military guy, they're not going in. They gotta continue their terrorist blitz on Gaza Strip. That's what they do. Yeah. So, but back to Canada and of course United States and the rest of the West. Shame on the media. The media is is all enlisted in working as a propaganda machine to the Zionist enterprise in Palestine, calling the Palestinians either terrorists or they don't exist. So if we exist, we are terrorists. If we don't exist, we don't exist.
You know,
So-
my uncle was called a terrorist by the Nazis because he was a partisan.
Of course. As they say, one person terrorist is another person freedom fighter. So, I mean, using the word terrorist is a political word, has absolutely no meaning, absolutely no meaning in the revolution. Like what we have in Palestine, we have colonial settler enterprise, and we having the people fighting back. On those people who were fighting back, according to the colonists and their backers, who are the West, they call us terrorists. So every Palestinian actually is a terrorist. Actually, and in Hebrew, they don't even use that word terrorist. They call it chiblanim. Chiblanim means they are who come and destroy things, destroyers. That's what they call them.
Oh, marauders.
It's even worse.
Marauders, yeah.
Yes. So everybody is a chiblan or chiblanim. So, but that doesn't make any sense. I know it doesn't. It's not going to stop us from fighting back and to regain our freedom and our land. Yes.
I'm looking forward to some kind of a split in the Israel state apparatus. You know, the Zionists must realize, you know, that they cannot, you know, save their project, you know, if they continue in this way. They must realize that they have to overthrow the king, King Bibi. You know, they have to go.
Yeah. Well, they will. At this moment, they're like a pack of hyenas attacking a prey. But when they finish from the prey, or the things are finished, they will go back at each other.
Yeah.
Okay, 80% of Zionist settlers in Palestine believe that Netanyahu bears responsibility for what happened on October 7th. They gotta fight among each other. That's for sure. It's a given. Never in the entire history of the so-called state of Israel, the Zionist entity, ever had such a shock to their life by the attack of the Palestinian freedom fighters when they break through the ghetto, and they went into about 20 different settlements, including the headquarters of the Gaza Army Division. They went into it, to the headquarters. They grabbed the head of it. He is there. His name is, I think, Namrud Aloni. He's a brigadier general. He is in the hand of Hamas. Yeah.
That's very strategic. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, Israel has this policy called the Hannibal Hannibal Code, or Hannibal doctrine. Which, you know, they don't care about the hostages because, you know, they're liability to the state of the Zionist state. So so they don't care if they bomb them. Even, you know, of the 200, you know, like prisoners there, you know, in the hands of Hamas, there's 13 who have been killed by the bombings, you know, made by, you know, the
actually 22 now.
Wow.
It's 22 prisoners being murdered by the American supplied aircraft and kill them. So who murdered them? Yes, it's called the Hannibal doctrine. That if any soldier or soldiers being caught by the fighters, you direct the fire on all of them. You kill them all. We don't need any quote unquote.
They already have, you know, a whole group of, you know, prisoners and Hamas fighters, you know, were killed altogether.
During that 2014, invasion, they attacked their own troops. They thought they were under detention by the freedom fighters in Gaza, and they killed 6 soldiers. But that's the Israelis. They know this. I mean, the so-called civilians. They don't know that their own children being murdered by their own army, so they will not be swamped with Palestinian prisoners. So even the Zionist soldier's life is becoming useless. Has no price to it. Is zero price.
Yeah.
It's as good as a Palestinian.
Yeah, because they are an asset to the Palestinians and not to the Zionist state. The state,
Exactly.
this nation state, mentality, this concept, it comes from Hegel. I did my whole doctoral thesis about this concept of the nation state, and inevitably leads, to a racist, fascist conclusion, because it's based upon the concept of a purity, one nation, one pure nation, and none other, and any minority nation, any nationality is considered like an infection, and they react as if they're an immune system, and they try to expel, the Jewish and the Roma peoples, of Europe, who are subjected to annihilation because we wouldn't leave. And this
Exactly.
is what trying to do the Palestinians. Nation states, do this sort of thing. Because one nation, one state concept, it's so monolithic. It's incredible.
Once, and I think in early 1940s, I believe, somebody said to Ben Gurion, David Ben Gurion, about some Bulgarian Jews who are refusing to return to the promised land. And he had still a phrase. He said that the cows that grazing in the land of Israel is worth to me more than those Jews who are refusing to come to Palestine. Whoa. This is even any Jew who doesn't serve the Zionist enterprise in their own establishment, he's worthless. Despite they act and behave that, we are here to protect and represent all Jews of the world, but they're not.
I've had Zionists tell me that I should have been killed by the Nazis because I'm not a Zionist.
There you go. There you go. That's it. That goes with what David Ben Gurion said in the early 40s about the Bulgarian Jews who refused to immigrate, and actually after that the Nazis took them. Actually, that's what happened. Those Bulgarian Jews, they were taken by the Nazis to the gas chambers, and when he asked, he was told about them. He said these people refused to come to Palestine. And they end up with the Nazis. The cows of Eretz Israel is more worth to me than them. Basically, they could go to hell.
That's his bullshit about refusing to go to Palestine. Only the rich, like Jewish strata, could make it to Palestine. Like you just can't, leave if you're living day to day. You need, your job to be able to eat.
Most Jews of Europe.
Most of the Jews were poor, working class Jewish Bundes, and the Zionists are happy that the Jewish Bundes, working class was all eliminated.
Most European Jews refused to go to Palestine. And in principle, not just only being poor and they can't afford it, is not the point here. The point is most Jews refuse the point of going to Palestine. Actually, they were preferred to go to the New World than going to Palestine.
2 million went to the United States.
So, but after the Second World War, the complicity of the 6 million issue, many were driven by fear to run away. But anyways, that's not the most important thing. I'm talking about Zionism was not part of being a Jew. If Judaism is a Zionism, most Jews in Europe before the Second World War, they would have gone to Palestine, which is not the case.
No, it's not the case, because the Jewish Bundes, who were the majority of the Jewish people in the working class, wanted to fight against fascism. They wouldn't let fascism pass. Like, what's the point, of running away from fascism? It's going to follow you, and everybody knew this.
Exactly. So everybody knows the incident that what's his name, Menachem Begin's father, who attacked a Warsaw synagogue with an axe. because the synagogue was making a funeral to a Zionist. He attacked. He went into the synagogue with an axe to fight. Why? How dare you making a funeral to a Zionist? This is how bad the Jews in Poland were opposed to the Zionists, and that's I think in the 1930s.
Wow.
You didn't know that? It's known. It's a known fact.
Wow.
Menachem Begin's father.
He wasn't a Zionist then.
He was anti-Zionist.
Yeah.
He went into a synagogue with an axe
Wow.
because he heard there's a Zionist being prepared for a funeral in the synagogue.
Yeah, Zionists are considered to be assimilated Christians, basically, because they're
They
following
are,
Christian,
they are actually,
Protestant church.
they have nothing to do with Judaism
Yeah,
or Jews. They're
that's right.
fascists.
The problem was that, that after the Holocaust, the Jewish Bund that was leading the Jewish working class was not there anymore, and the Jewish working class of Europe wasn't there anymore. So the Zionists, just cleaned up, and they claimed to be speaking on behalf of the Jewish people. And in the UN, they were given status, as a state, But, real Jewish, people independent, like where my parents were in the refugee camp, in Wetzlar in Germany, they weren't offered, territory of Germany to found a Jewish, province or something, like no way, nothing was being offered in terms of land in Europe.
Yeah, that was
the land in the Orient that was being offered, and only that.
There was a big mistake by the Soviets at that time. The Jews should have given in Eastern Europe a homeland that will be part of their own independent entity to flourish and be part of Europe.
Yeah, and the old Killa settlement, the ghetto of the Tsarist, empire, that could have been in Jewish there. Byelorussia, I think it's called now. It could have been.
Yeah, it could be encompass that area, part of Poland, part of even Lithuania.
Yeah, that's the whole problem, that the Marxist, doctrine, of the early Communist Party, wouldn't allow for national identity, to be considered valid.
I know.
It was only class identity that counted. And
yeah, the Soviets screwed up big times the issue of identity and nationalism. They thought they would have to mix and mix different nationalities with each other. That was so stupid. They brought Tatar from the east, put them in the Crimea. They took some of the it was so stupid. It was just totally.
This concerns you, Steve, as well. What would you say? Oh, your microphone is muted still.
It's from his point, from his...
he hasn't activated his microphone. Your microphone is not activated.
Yeah, he should activate his microphone,
Oh, there. Oh, there.
I'm sorry, brothers. I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's okay.
What I was saying was I think that the only thing I can really comment on, because I'm learning a lot, is about this Hannibal doctrine and why it hasn't been ruthlessly condemned.
I know of no other army in the world that has such a disdain for its own captured soldiers. Yeah.
That doctrine right there, or it is soldiers or people captured by their opponent in armed conflict.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it should be the subject of any demonstration.
It goes beyond that, like it's a whole sort of mentality, because let me give you the testimony of an uncle of mine, an uncle by marriage. Okay. My mother's sister married this Israeli guy who originally, came from a village in Russia that was a Jewish village, a shtetl, and all of the inhabitants, were killed except for him. And when he went back there, he's the only one left. So he left, went to Israel and found a new life there, and became a soldier in the 1956 war. And he admitted to me after we had, many, arguments, at the family Seder at Passover, in the springtime, and I get expelled from the family dinner because of him. He admitted to me later on, that he had been ordered to execute Egyptian prisoners of war, unarmed, who were ordered to take their boots off, who couldn't run away. And he was ordered to execute them, and he did. At the time he told me about this, I thought it was, like a small number. But then I hear thousands of Egyptian fathers were killed in that manner, by this guy who's my uncle. I couldn't, fathom it, And it's incredible, and in the family, I get, blamed for being the black sheep of the family or something like this, but this guy, this war criminal, is, considered to be legitimate. It's incredible.
Well, I again, I'm just going to say that since we're on the topic of the Hannibal Doctrine, and since I learned it from you 2 weeks ago, I did not know about this doctrine. I think that anyone opposed to the occupation on the Jewish side, anyone opposed, I'm not saying only Jewish people should raise this issue, but I think it should be raised by the Jewish people.
Yeah.
Because it comes from a government like we talked about previously. This government claims to represent Jewish people. It claims to represent Jewish people all over the world, right? Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So therefore, how can you support a government that says if anyone of this nation is taken captive in a war, we are going to kill you?
Yeah. Okay.
That's a bit much for me to swallow.
Yeah. They've been doing it on the West Bank for the past years. They don't take prisoners. They just shoot young people on the spot, and they plant next to them a knife or something, and say, "Oh, this guy about to attack us, and we had to defend ourselves and kill them." But it's garbage.
I do think as part of the anti-occupation, anti-war movement, that this needs to be raised as a crime against humanity and against civility. That we have, even in warfare, there has to be rules of the game on both sides. And you're telling me that I'm captured, and if I'm captured as a member of your society, and I'm taken prisoner, that I should be killed by you? To me, it's just a good way of exposing what they are really about.
Yes.
And
when I go back to the Jewish Community Center, and they won't be able to stop me, I'll raise that with anybody who objects to my presence there. I say, "Oh yeah, what are you doing here? Like you're the one is favoring the killing of Jewish prisoners of war, and I'm trying to stop that from happening, and yet I'm supposed to be subordinated to you, whatever you want, like no, they're not going to let them dominate the Jewish people anymore. I think that we're going to have a breakthrough here. And the Zionist, control over the Jewish mentality is going to be cracked wide open here, and we're going to walk in.
And as far as the media concerned, I'm so happy that we have Al Jazeera and other alternative media that are really, if it wasn't for those media, those alternative sources, at least in the United States.
Yeah.
All we have is the propaganda of the New York Times, the Washington Post, the different news media, the Associated Press, United Press International. There's just simply there's no alternate view, and of course, no one will say, well, historically the Palestinians have a right to self-defense, including the right to attack their enemy. That's not going to be heard. But I'm just talking about the facts on the ground. The facts on the ground, because as I'm talking to you, I've seen some alerts from Al Jazeera as far as rocket attack, air attacks on Gaza, etc. So I'm just very happy to have an alternative point of view, because all we see is the propaganda of Israel is the best thing since sliced bread, and Hamas sits on the left hand of Satan. That's the view that we're seeing.
But Russia Today and Al Jazeera were pro pro-Zionist at first. They were considering, Israel to be the victim. And that lasted about 3 days. And then they switched over. Like
I'm happy they changed that view because Israel has never been the victim.
Yeah.
No,
Really.
Israel is not a victim. Israel is embodiment of the victimizers. It is.
The seeds of fascism were laid in 1948, and this is the fruit coming now, in the Netanyahu government. Fascist cabinet, which even included Blinken, even Biden, joined the emergency, cabinet, meeting, for hours, to discuss strategy together. They're in this together. This is, a major offensive against the Orient as a whole. They don't care about any other, opposition in the Orient as long as they have the support of the West. But now they're isolated in the Security Council. So, but they don't care. They don't seem to care, because they got the support back home. Nothing's pushing them to change their position, except for the Jewish occupation of the capital. But,
I want to raise one other point, something that I think we should focus on. Why is the presence of this forward strike force, of this carrier and the Marines, that has been done to provide military support for Israel. They aren't there just chilling at hey, we went on a little trip. We're in the Middle East. What do you know? Hey man, look, there's Tel Aviv. No, they're going to use that whatever armaments are on that carrier, whatever airplanes, whatever cannons, whatever soldiers, they will be inserted into this war in some way.
Well, there was at one point that they were going to go in, the American Marines were going to go in and rescue the hostage, the so-called hostages, prisoners of war. Okay, they're going to attack, where, they don't even know,
Right. Well,
they can't find them.
No.
They're deep under the ground. They're deep under the ground. Nobody knows where they are. If they know, even they know, they can't go into these tunnels.
They're lucky to be in the tunnels because they're not being bombed on the surface like all the civilians.
Exactly. Initially, there's 22 of them being murdered by the Israeli airstrikes.
Yeah.
And they were in safe homes, and these safe homes were, they're being bombed. And they murdered them. So basically, they were not in a military installations. So therefore, their blood lies squarely on the hands of the Israelis and the Americans. Whether those 22 prisoners of war were Americans or dual citizens or Zionists, doesn't matter. It's who killed them is the bearer of the responsibility of their death, not Hamas, for sure.
But did you hear that 2 Americans were released by Hamas?
Yesterday, yes. A mother and her daughter. I thought the daughter is a young daughter. No, the mother, she looks in her mid-40s, and her daughter is about 20 years old. I think they're Jewish volunteers from the United States coming to spend the summer in the kibbutzim. But they're not Israeli citizens by any stretch of imagination, but they're Zionists. Nevertheless. The Palestinians, they showed that this is a token of peace or who we are. We'll let those Zionists who came to our land, squattering our land, to work in the kibbutzim, okay? And they let them go. I saw the video. They're looking in good health after 14 days. They look like they're well fed. They're not being touched. And I am 100% sure that our freedom fighters, they will never touch these people, anybody.
Yeah. Steve, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I want to comment on this because this is something I'm just learning again. I don't know how to say this, but I'm going to say it in a way that's respectful. The United States has never kept a treaty it didn't want to break. I send my olive branch of brotherhood to those militants who released these prisoners. I do. However, do not expect any reciprocity from the United States.
No. It was not. They did issue a communique.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, don't expect any reciprocity any gesture because it's just not in the nature of the wild beast to be decent toward potential prey. I appreciate the release. That's nice. That's really good.
Yeah. Interpretation.
Yeah.
I have interpretation to this. I think that's my own hunch, my own interpretation. Is not based on information. That the release of these two prisoners, okay, was in relation to allowing aid today from Egypt. So that's what it is. Said, okay, show us, give us a token of gesture, and we'll let that go in. They thought that Hamas will not do that. Said, okay, here are 2 Americans, we'll release them. Tomorrow you let the aid in. And actually, now I was checking the aid. Some of the aid went in, but I don't know how much.
Right. Okay, good.
But,
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, at first they talk about 12 trucks and then 20 trucks. What they need is 600 trucks.
Yes, that's true.
And during normal times, they only allowed in 100 trucks a day into the whole Gaza.
Remember, they're putting people of Gaza on diet.
Yeah.
That's a very bad
diet.
Yeah. Actually, one of a general of the Israeli Civil Administration Department, which is an army dealing with the Palestinian. He said it, he said a few years ago. We are when he asked why you just allowing such amount of food to go into Gaza, he said, we are monitoring the calories of each person taking in Gaza, and we're putting the Gazan on diet. This is what's said to the media. If you dig it up, you'll find it. Okay, we're talking about a true concentration camp. Organization. This is how it is, and the world sitting on their behind, watching and doing nothing. And when the Palestinian break through the ghetto walls, everybody said, "Oh no! How dare you?" As if the history started on October 7th. Sorry, buddies, but it's been way before.
This is history. Yeah, this is a new historic epoch. This is a revolt of the whole third world. This is an international, like in a permanent revolution sequence. A whole international revolution has happened.
But
we only have a minute or two left.
I gotta finish up. What I can say, the world in Palestine in particular is before October 7th is not like after. Things will change. Israel has to yield, has to capitulate. That's what I say.
Okay. So looking forward to the demonstration tomorrow. It's going to be an international demonstration as well. It's going to be millions. Nobody's even been able to calculate the number of people that have been demonstrating internationally, but it must be in the millions. Yemeni protesters, they look like 1 million people already. Just by themselves.
That's right.
And they've offered to march to the borders of Palestine. So we'll see. Okay.
To set the mood for what's coming next, you should familiarize with the English translation to the lyrics of Zog Nit Kemmel, which Zog Nit Kemmel, by the way, is the Jewish partisan song, which is actually a Bundist song. I don't need to prove that. That's actually been referenced many times. No, I do not know the references off the top of my head, but no, this is a Bundist song. In fact, pretty much most Yiddish political songs you would have heard were typically either Bundist or Jewish anarchist of some kind. So, this is Zog Nit Kemmel, the Jewish partisan song, sung by Paul Robinson. The lyrics will be important for the video which will follow through after.
Never say that you have reached the very end, when leaden skies a bitter future may portend. For sure the hour for which we yearn will yet arrive, and our marching steps will thunder we survive. For sure the hour for which we yearn will yet arrive, and our marching steps with thunder we survive. Not lead but blood inscribes this bitter song we sing. 'Tis not a caroling of birds upon the wing, but 'twas a people midst the crashing fires of hell that sang this song and fought courageous till it fell. But 'twas a people midst the crashing fires of hell that sang this song and fought courageous till it fell. Såg ni kinmalers du gehst dem letzten Wege, wenn die Himmeln bleine verstellen bläue Tege, weil kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkter Schau, uns wird er beugt und unser Trott mir seinen da, weil kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkter Schau, uns wird er beugt und unser Trott mir seinen da. Geschrieben ist das Lied mit Blut und nicht mit Blei. Es ist nicht ein Lied von so einem Vogel auf der Frei. Das hat auf Volk zwischen Fahlen dicker Wind. Das Lied gesungen mit ner Gannes in die Hand. Das hat auf Volk zwischen Fahlen dicker Wind. Das Lied gesungen mit ner Gannes in die Hand.
Now that you've been familiarized with all the lyrics, we shall bring this to a very important presentation by Dr. Norman Finkelstein. Now, a disclaimer, the Bundists do not speak for Norman Finkelstein, and Norman Finkelstein most definitely does not speak for the Bund. However, Norman Finkelstein, for what he is worth, he's been more or less a pretty good, decent anti-Zionist. Although, at some point, he got interested in the concept of a two-state solution. I don't know how he feels about that now at this point. The no-state solution and the idea of a multinational federation is a lot better. But it really is. Like, if the Marxists get their way, good to get their way, there'd just be one Palestinian state where the Palestinians are poor and the Israelis are rich. Nothing against my Marxist comrades and friends, but you know, your former glory failed. One of the failures of Marxism was to not understand the Bund. Anyway, Norman Finkelstein responds to Bernie Sanders' statement opposing Gaza's ceasefire. This came out on November 6, 2023.
I want to just clarify one thing, Senator, if I might. You support a humanitarian pause in Gaza. Some of your fellow progressives say that there should be a full-on ceasefire, which would require an agreement on both sides to halt the fighting. Do you support a ceasefire? And if not, why not?
Well, I don't know how you can have a ceasefire, permanent ceasefire, with an organization like Hamas, which is dedicated to turmoil and chaos and destroying the state of Israel. And I think what the Arab countries in the region understand, that Hamas has got to go. So.
Okay. My name is Norm Finkelstein. I heard Bernie Sanders statement this evening opposing a ceasefire. I had planned to spend this evening reading, except fallen dreadfully behind in my reading. And unless I keep reading, I can't bring anything fresh and important to what's happening now. But I was so furious at that remark of Bernie's, where he said he opposed the ceasefire, and my innards started to writhe, and I decided I had to respond. Now, this is wholly unrehearsed. There are no special effects to make my remarks more effective. I'm just speaking it as the words go from my brain out into the cyberspace. Now, Bernie said in this interview that he opposed the ceasefire. And his grounds for opposing the ceasefire were that Hamas wanted to destroy Israel, and therefore Hamas has to be destroyed. So let's look at the facts. I'm not going to go all the way back into history. I'm going to just start with 2006. In 2006, there was an election in the West Bank and Gaza, parliamentary elections. Those elections were urged on the Palestinian people by the US administration. It was that now forgotten moment in the Bush administration called democracy promotion. And part of this package called democracy promotion was the Palestinians were supposed to participate in those wonderful democratic experiences. And Hamas was urged to participate in those elections, and it reversed itself. Hitherto, it opposed participating in any elections in the occupied territories because those elections were a consequence of the Oslo Accord. And since Hamas opposed the Oslo Accord, it opposed participating in the elections. But it reversed itself. It ran in the civilian political party. And much to the surprise of Hamas and everybody else, it won the election. Those were, according to former US President Jimmy Carter, completely fair and honest elections, and Hamas won. What did the US and Israel do? It immediately imposed a brutal blockade on Gaza, which brought economic life in Gaza to a standstill. Now, that's not all it did, but we'll get back to that in a moment. First of all, remind listeners, what is Gaza? It's 25 miles long, it's 5 miles wide, it's a tiny parcel of land. It's among the most densely populated places on God's earth. Half of the population of Gaza consists of children, to which I'll return. 70% of Gaza consists of refugees from the 1948 war, that is, Palestinians who were expelled from the area that became Israel and ended up in Gaza and have remained refugees for 75 years henceforth, living in refugee camps like Jabalia camp, to which I'll also return in a moment. Gaza has been under this blockade for about 20 years, 2 years shy of 20 years. Nobody can go in, nobody can go out. Unemployment in Gaza is about 50% among the population in general, 60% among the youth. It reportedly has the highest rate of unemployment of any area in the world. It suffers from what humanitarian organizations called extreme food insecurity. Nobody can go in, nobody can go out. What is Gaza? Well, one of Israel's senior officials, or in layperson's terms, certified lunatics, named Giora Eiland, E-I-L-A-N-D, for those who want to look it up. In 2006, Giora Eiland, who still is incidentally in the inner circle of Benjamin Netanyahu right now as I speak. He described Gaza as, quote, not my words, as a huge concentration camp. That's Gaza. Euphemistically, even Bernie, who's ever so politically correct, will acknowledge that, well, maybe, he says, it can be described as an open-air prison. Open-air prison, the euphemism, or Giora Island, a huge concentration camp. Or maybe Baruch Kimmerling, the former senior sociologist at Hebrew University, quote, the largest concentration camp ever to exist. Now, as a matter of law, Richard Goldstone, who authored the famous or infamous, whichever you prefer, Goldstone Report after Operation Cast Lead in 2008-9. He said that the blockade of Gaza likely qualifies or rises to a crime against humanity. That's a crime against humanity that's endured for 2 decades. Not a momentary crime against humanity, say dropping a bomb on a hospital or dropping a 2,000-pound bomb on a densely populated refugee camp. Not a momentary crime against humanity, but a crime against humanity that's endured for nearly 2 decades. But bear in mind, it's Hamas that must be defeated because it wants to destroy Israel. Not Israel that must be destroyed because it wants to incarcerate, immure an entire population, half of whom are children, in the concentration camp, which constitutes a crime against humanity. No, Israel doesn't have to be destroyed. Only Hamas has to be destroyed. Well, first of all, is it true? I'm asking you, Bernie, I don't know if you know the facts, and I will grant you that focused as you are on domestic issues, I will grant you probably don't know the facts, and you're entitled not to know them. You know Build Back better than me. And that was your priority. That's always been your priority. And I have to respect that. I saw your speech for the United Auto Workers during the strike. And as much as I've soured on you, I have to acknowledge it was a great speech. I talked to Dr. Cornel West shortly after that speech, and I said it was, really a brilliant speech. And he said to me, well, Bernie was in his element. Workers' strikes, workers' rights, unions, it's Bernie's element. Fine. And I'll grant that in your element, you're good. Actually, you're as good as they get. But, and here I'm going to quote Claire Daly from the European Union. When Ursula von der Leyen when she decided, without any mandate, to go over and embrace Israel and say we all stand by Israel, Claire Daly, the Irish representative in the European Union, she said, quote, referring to van der Leyen, she said, quote, if you have nothing constructive to say, shut up. I'm going to repeat that to you, Bernie. If you have nothing constructive to say, shut up. So here are the facts. When Hamas was elected, it repeatedly sent out peace feelers to try to resolve the conflict with Israel. It presented on its own, or as speaking for itself, the terms of the international consensus for resolving the conflict, namely 2 states on the June 1967 border. Now, it's true, because I have no quarrel with facts. I've always been of the opinion that there's no contradiction between truth and the struggle for justice. And if there were a contradiction between the two, it would probably cause me a moral crisis. But at the end of the day, I would come out on the side of truth. Hamas, yes, it's true. There were areas such as its demand for the full implementation of the right of the return of Palestinian refugees to the homes from which they were expelled in 1948. Even though that is the law, that is the law, I recognize that as part of a settlement, that particular aspect of international law would probably have to be negotiated. I'm not saying I don't want to speak for the Palestinians. I'm rendering as it were, third-party judgment from afar. But there is no question that Hamas was attempting to reach some sort of settlement with Israel. The record is ample in that regard. The documentation, irrefutable and impeachable. What was the Israeli reaction? Well, time won't allow me to go through the entire record, but I will briefly go through it. I have to go through it because my innards writhe at the despicable thing you said in the interview today, whether it was moral idiocy, whether it was exemplary of being a moral monster, or whether it was cynical opportunism, because you're too much of a coward to break ranks with President Biden. I don't know which it is, but here is the record. The record can be summarized in a phrase that became very popular in the Israeli administration. It's called mowing the lawn. It happens that this lawn called Gaza, 1,100,000 blades of grass in that lawn are children. So, whenever that satanic government, and I choose my words carefully and with premeditation, whenever that satanic government refers to mowing the lawn, we should bear in mind that 1,100,000 blades of grass in that lawn are children. But Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont, he says Israel must destroy Hamas because Hamas wants to destroy Israel. Yes, Bernie, you're so right. You are so right, Bernie. Until October 7th, Israel didn't want to destroy Gaza. It just wanted to mow the lawn. You're so right, Bernie. I am so appreciative of your moral niceties and nuances. Hamas must be destroyed because it wants to destroy Israel. But Israel, does it have to be destroyed? No, because Israel doesn't want to destroy Gaza, or at least until October 7th. It just wants to mow the lawn. That's your moral calculus, Bernie. Your sick, ill, morbid moral calculus. So, Hamas, that terrible, evil organization, it wants to destroy Israel, and that's why Hamas has to be destroyed. So in June 2008, there was a ceasefire arranged between Israel and Hamas. That evil Hamas, oh my goodness gracious, as Cornell Dr. West would say, my goodness gracious, that evil, perfidious Hamas, it negotiated a ceasefire. And then what happened? The ceasefire held. It held in June, it held in July, it held in August, it held in September, it held in October, and it held the first 4 days in November. And then November 4th came along. For those people whose memories are short, that was Election Day. It was the day when everybody's attention was riveted on the presidential election and the first Black president being elected in our country's history. And Israel used that moment when all the cameras were diverted from it. It used that moment to attack Hamas in Gaza and broke the ceasefire. Not evil, perfidious Hamas, but beautiful, wonderful Israel. Now, that's not my word. Go back and read what Amnesty International said. In fact, even the official Israeli publications, which I cite in my book, state the ceasefire held until Israel broke it. And then Israel proceeded to do what it does best. It proceeded to commit a high-tech massacre in Gaza, killed about 1,400 people, Of those 1,400, 350 were children. It systematically devastated the infrastructure in Gaza, and it was guilty of, according to the Goldstone report, multiple war crimes and possibly crimes against humanity. Now, here's a point for you, Bernie. I barely can say that name anymore without being filled with contempt and disgust. I worked very hard in that 2016 campaign, and I worked very hard on that 2020 campaign. And I was, by a wide margin, among the oldest people who was going in vans out of state to canvass for you. And now it's a bitter memory when I hear your statements. So here's a fact for you, Bernie. As I mentioned to you, about 1,400 people were killed in Gaza. The estimates are 4/5 were civilians, 1/5 or 20% were combatants. If you look at what happened on October 7th, the numbers are roughly the same. About 1,400 civilians were killed after the prison breakout or concentration camp breakout in Gaza. The numbers I've seen are about 400 were combatants among the Israelis killed. But roughly speaking, the numbers balance out. So here's my question for you, Bernie. And I'm dead serious. This ain't a joke. I'm not talking about scoring debating points. It's about people, to quote the Warsaw Ghetto Resistance song. It's really the partisan song, but the Warsaw Ghetto Resistance song. And one lyric goes, "'Twas a people midst the crashing fires of hell. 'Twas a people amidst the crashing fires of hell." And that's the people of Gaza now, Bernie. 'Twas a people, or now 'tis a people, amidst the crashing fires of hell. And Bernie Sanders is on record saying it should continue. So here's the question, Bernie. You say that because of what Hamas did on October 7th, they proved that they can't be lived with and they have to be destroyed. Now, if that be the case, and if I've accurately rendered the historical record, as I'm very confident I have, then if the numbers are roughly the same, and it's undisputed that Israel broke the ceasefire, why don't you conclude on the basis of just Operation Cast Lead, just in that one operation, that one mowing of the lawn, why don't you conclude that Israel must be destroyed? You came to the realization after October 7th that Hamas had to be destroyed. So logically, if roughly the same numbers of people were killed, then Israel has to be destroyed. But you're going to say, no, 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 no. You're going to shake your head. I already know every one of your facial gestures. I listened to you in 2016 and 2020, every night, every debate, listen to you again and again. You're going to, no, no, you're going to say, you're going to shake your head. It's different. Because Hamas wants to destroy Israel. Israel doesn't want to destroy Gaza. No, you're right, Bernie. Up until October 7th, you were right. Israel didn't want to destroy Gaza. It just wanted to leave the 2.3 million people, half of whom are children, immured in the concentration camp to languish and die. You're right, Bernie. It's different. Hamas wants to destroy Israel. But all Israel wants to do, I mean, it's not really a big deal. Let's be for real. All Israel wanted to do was immure 2,300,000 people in a concentration camp and leave them there to die. So that's, there's Bernie's moral subtlety. You know how philosophers love nuance. They love complexity. They love nicety. Evil Hamas, it wants to destroy Israel, whereas Israel, all it wants to do is lock 2.3 million people in a concentration camp for life. If you go to Operation Pillar of Defense, it happened, and I don't have time to go through the details now. It happened that after Operation Cast Lead, there was a slight relaxing of the brutal blockade of Gaza. And it enabled, it was probably just a temporary blip. That's what Sarah Roy has written, the Harvard economist. And of course, I defer to her judgment. She's the world's leading authority in Gaza's economy. She said it was probably just a temporary blip. But the fact is, the Gaza economy did show some recovery, signs of recovery. And there was also money starting to pour in from Qatar. The head of state of Turkey, Erdogan, was planning on a visit to Gaza. And this annoyed the heck out of Israel, because Gaza was not supposed to prosper. Again, relatively speaking, when I speak of prosperity, it wasn't supposed to prosper. So what did it do? Record is clear. It assassinated a senior Hamas official. It happened that this senior Hamas official named Jabari, he was the main contact with the Israeli government. He was the one responsible for negotiating the ceasefires with Israel. And at the moment he was assassinated, he was in the midst of negotiating a long-term ceasefire with Israel. You hear that, Bernie? Those evil, perfidious, devilish Hamas leaders, they were so perfidious that they were planning to negotiate a long-term ceasefire with Israel. So what did Israel do? They killed him, and then began Operation Pillar of Defense. And then in 2014, it's time to mow the lawn again. Without going into the details, by the end, Israel killed not 1,400 Palestinians, as Israelis were killed on October 7th. They killed 2,200 Palestinians, of whom 550 were children. They demolished 18,000 homes. Peter Moore, the head of the president of the International Committee of the Red Cross, whose job is to tour war zones. That's his resume, his CV, to tour war zones. After he toured Gaza, he said never in his professional life had he seen destruction of the magnitude that he witnessed in Gaza. But it's Hamas that has to be destroyed, because it wants to destroy Israel. It doesn't recognize Israel. Hamas is the problem. Hamas. Let's not talk about destroying the state of Israel. That's sacrosanct. That's not even a conceivable concept. But destroying Hamas, because they're evil incarnate. They're so evil that they negotiate ceasefires. They stand by ceasefires. They attempt to restore the devastated economy in Gaza. That's pristine, distilled evil incarnate. And then comes October 7th. I've spoken about it at length to the point of tedium, so I'm not going to repeat myself in this response to you, Bernie. But I have to say, with all due respect, the things you've been saying since October 7th, you're positively ill. Now, I know you're thinking, well, I've heard some of the things you said, and I think they're ill. Fair enough. However, we can disagree on that. And we can disagree forcefully on that. But when you say you oppose a ceasefire, you've crossed a red line. You become a moral monster. I'm going to say that again. You become a moral monster. I read yesterday your tweet. Now, you'll forgive me for not getting it verbatim correctly. But you said, not me, you said in that tweet yesterday, Israel is indiscriminately bombing hospitals, bombing schools, killing civilians. You said that. And I'll ask the people who are recording this video to post right as I recite these remarks, which I acknowledge are a paraphrase of what you said yesterday. Now, when you oppose, I should say, when you oppose a ceasefire at this point, you are in effect and in fact, and in fact, giving Israel carte blanche to continue to indiscriminately target the civilian infrastructure and the civilian population of Gaza, 1 million of whom, or 1,100,000 of whom, are children. You have become a moral monster. And don't say, of course I oppose that. Of course you oppose that. And do you think Israel will stop doing that because Bernie Sanders tells them to? You think all of a sudden now they're going to cease targeting hospitals with the plural, hospitals? You think they're going to cease targeting ambulances? Do you think they're going to cease targeting civilian dwellings? 42 or more percent of the housing, the homes of these people, 70% of whom and their descendants already lost their homes in 1948 and now lost them again. The 50% who are children no longer have a roof over their head. The little toys that they had, the family pictures that they kept, everything now in rubble. And buried beneath the rubble, there are still thousands of children. And you just gave the green light to continue the destruction of Gaza. 'Twas a people midst the crashing fires of hell. And now 'tis a people amidst the crashing fires of hell, with the stamp of approval from Bernie Sanders. What a pitiful shame. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Dr. Finkelstein responds to Bernie Sanders' recent statements opposing a ceasefire. There is a pension, which Dr. Norman Finkelstein is asking people to sign. I don't typically get into pensions. I'm not saying you shouldn't. That becomes a very murky area that I'm not ready to or prepared to explain just yet. My problems with that, but at the same time, I'm not completely opposed to pensions either. It's a complicated issue. So, the pension, it's a call for debate between Sanders and Finkelstein, from what I understand. I think so. I will just send you the links in the description for that, with everything else.
The Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that. You're going to have to say that I am a proletarian. I am the people. I'm not the pig. You got to make a distinction. And the people are going to have to attack the pigs. The people are going to have to stand up against the pigs. That's what the pastors are doing. That's what the pastors are doing all over the world.
Dr. Finkelstein responds to Bernie Sanders' recent statements opposing a ceasefire. There is a pension, which Dr. Norman Finkelstein is asking people to sign. I don't typically get into pensions. I'm not saying you shouldn't. That becomes a very murky area that I'm not ready to or prepared to explain just yet. My problems with that. But at the same time, I'm not completely opposed to pensions either. It's a complicated issue. So the pension, it's a call for debate between Sanders and Finkelstein, from what I understand, I think. So I will just send you the links in the description for that, with everything else.
We are here today as the Jewish Bund. We are Jews of different origins and backgrounds. German Jews, Russian Jews, Israeli Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, and Mizrahi Jews. We stand in solidarity with the Palestinian community and protest the ongoing Nakba, the massacres, and the inconceivable violence done in our names.
We are here to resist and protest with the Palestinian people the Nakba that continues for 73 years now, the Israeli bombings and massacres in Gaza, the mass arrests in occupied Jerusalem, in the West Bank and across Palestine, the expropriation of homes and land in Sheikh Jarrah that became a symbol of violent dispossession, the lynch mobs and the ongoing racist reality in Jaffa, Lid, Ramle, and Haifa. These atrocities highlight a brutal reality for Palestinians under Israeli control and the increasing normalization of anti-Palestinian violence in the Jewish-Israeli society.
The Palestinian right of return remains silenced as the Israeli state is determined to continue the ethnic cleansing. The same ethnic cleansing it has engaged in since 1948 in the attempt to remove Palestinians from Palestine, physically and culturally. This is not a conflict. This is a system of colonial violence in which the political, military, and economic supremacy of Jews over Palestinians is a foundational aspect.
The fact that someone like me, who grew up in Brooklyn and Berlin all their life, has more legal rights in Palestine than a Palestinian whose family has lived there for generations is the profound injustice of colonial logic, of ethnic cleansing that aims to replace one people with another.
Because as Jews, we experience German anti-Semitism on a regular basis, it is all the more appalling that accusations of anti-Semitism are often used as an instrument to silence demands for Palestinian human rights. The criminalization of Palestine solidarity is rising in Germany, and it is undoubtedly a backlash against the power and growth of Palestinian solidarity movements in Germany and worldwide.
Germany's anti-Semitism commissioner, Felix Klein, revises history by projecting all anti-Semitism on migrants. It's ironic that Germans are worried about anti-Semitism being imported instead of reflecting on their own family histories and dealing with the extensive racism against people of color, migrants, and refugees in Germany. We resist the exploitation of Jewish history as moral justification for Israel's crimes. Like many revolutionary Jewish figures before us, we align ourselves with anti-imperialist and anti-colonial struggles in the past and present. We stand for a free Palestine.
The criminalization of the Palestinian struggle for rights and justice is not limited to the Israeli government. Police brutality over the past week in Hermannplatz, in Rathaus Neukölln, in Sonnenallee shows that the Berlin state's willingness to suppress Palestinian voices of resistance to injustice, while the corona deniers and the neo-Nazis are laughing and shaking hands with the police.
Just like our comrades in Palestina Spricht denounce anti-Semitism and make it clear it has no space in the Palestine solidarity movement, we denounce anti-Palestinian racism and are proud to be part of the struggle. Our solidarity is stronger than divide and conquer tactics of the nationalist and racist German and Israeli advocacy groups.
We call for the immediate stop of the massacre and violence in Palestine, for an end of the ongoing Nakba, and for the right of return. We know these are the essential conditions for a future in the region.
Free Palestine.
So that was the speech for Nakba Day demonstration by the Jewish anti-fascist Bund. The Jewish Bund in Germany, we can refer to as the Jewish Antifa Bund, as this flag you were witnessing kind of represents. This is a very, very good thing. That video you just saw came out on May 17th, 2021. And next, I'm bringing you to something that came out on October 29th, 2023. It's the last Here and Now that was aired, and it's a conversation between Ahmed of Palestine and Dr. Avram Weisfeld on the situation of Gaza, revealing the actual conditions in this Gaza war, breaking through the Zionist agency censorship on civilian deaths, hostages, the 1947 Nakba on Gaza. Long live Meir Shreen.
Here and now, here we are with Ahmed from Palestine. And we are now concerned about Gaza because the Zionist regime, with the support of the American State Department even, Blinken, who's a Zionist and heads the State Department, is a, super Zionist. And they want Israel to go in and massacre as many as they would wish. This is the situation that we face now. Yesterday in Montreal, we had a demonstration of 5,000. Everywhere in the world, there are demonstrations. The big slogan at our demonstration was Intifada Worldwide Revolution.
Great.
Incredible. It is,
It is incredible.
That don't support Gaza, should be overthrown, basically, they're no good. They're corrupt. They're fascist regimes, and the Canadian government, party, the Liberal Party, exposed itself as being, complicit with even Nazis by hosting the Nazi in the House of Commons.
Not just them, also the Conservatives. They are on the same seat when it comes to their wars on Palestine and their wars on Russia. They are on the same boat. You cannot differentiate who is more fascist. Is it Poilievre or is it Trudeau? They're actually,
I haven't heard anything from the NDP. Do you know anything from the NDP?
The NDP is wishy-washy as usual. I haven't heard anything, but somebody told me they can issue a communique, basically, strongly condemn, Hamas, blah, 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 blah. And, we regret the loss of innocent civilians' lives in Gaza due to the war between Israel and Hamas. So it's a symmetrical war, they think, which is not, of course. It's asymmetrical war. It's not even a war. It's a genocide against the Palestinian people. They are bombing the hell of Gaza from the air, operating Gaza. Over 50% of the Gaza Strip is becoming rubble. You're talking about, as we speak, over 8,000 Palestinians being murdered in their homes, on the roads, even around the hospitals, mostly women and children and elderly, also innocent men who has nothing to do with what's going on. And over 20,000 civilians injured. Many will die because many of them in severe conditions will die due to the lack of necessities of life, especially the medical, medical needs. Many hundreds of operations, life-saving operations, has been done without anesthetic. Severely shortage hospitals in Gaza. This is a catastrophe. This is a human tragedy unfolding before our eyes. Live stream, everybody can see the death of innocent civilians, and the world doing nothing except talking about how bad the situation is, instead of intervening. When people, when the Second World War started and the Nazis start killing and murdering people, the world intervened to serve the people. But when it comes to Palestine, we have the entire West, including Canada, are taking the front seat next to Netanyahu in killing and murdering innocent people. That is disgusting.
You know how disgusting it is for the Zionist government to be using the memory of the Holocaust to justify another Holocaust.
Exactly, that's what they're doing. It's a very disgusting, disconcerting, and what make, you know, there's always silver lining of tragedies. You're having lots of Jews around the world waking up and saying, "Not in my name. Don't commit Holocaust in our name. You are not bad, not worse or less than the Nazis. You are the 21st century Nazis committing crimes against humanity."
Yeah, at the same time, the Zionist government, Netanyahu in particular, are trying to make out, you know, that Hamas is a Nazi terrorist organization, and they use examples of burned babies and burned bodies. And I saw a report yesterday that these burned babies and burned bodies that actually exist were burned by tank fire.
Exactly, because you know, it's worth to note that the freedom fighters who broke through the ghetto wall or the big prison war, they had only small fire, I mean, like machine guns and
Small grenade launchers,
small grenades, and these grenades cannot and will not do such big damage to buildings, burning homes or burning bodies. I mean, a hand grenade could kill someone, but it will not burn a body.
Yeah.
Okay. Who burned the bodies? It's the Israelis themselves by hellfire. I mean, from helicopters, gunships, from tanks, which can incinerate the entire buildings. So now, you know, the truth is unfolding before our eyes. Even those bodies they could claim to be burned by the Palestinians, it was their own work. It's on their own deed.
Yeah.
They're shameless. They have no shame whatsoever to kill their own, and they say, "Oh, it's ISIS, blah blah blah," you know, decapitating the heads of people and burning. And how do you know they raped a victim? Who told you? We never seen any video or a picture of a young woman say that I was raped. No, they just they bring their own military spokesman, okay, and they take so-called journalists to a tour, and he told them stories.
Yeah.
It's
the initial story of 40 burned and beheaded babies, that was made up by an Israeli a squatter in the West Bank from I think the Yitzhar colony, now Nablus, who told it to a soldier. The soldier told it to a journalist, and the journalist broadcasts, you know, this myth all over the world. You know, and
and you know what? Despite the fact that this garbage story was being refuted by the Israelis themselves, who were captured by the fighters, refuted by no evidence when Joe Biden withdrew his remarks, and most of the mainstream media withdrew such remarks. Still, when you see fascists like Piers Morgan or other Zionist personalities still using the same thing, it's lie, like gobbles, lie, so people will believe you. It's never happened.
Yeah. From the statistics of what I've heard is that the number of political prisoners and civilian hostages inside Gaza right now started off by being 229. Of those, 50 have been killed by these Zionist planes bombarding, the Palestinian, homes.
Yes.
50, and
It's
then
they
the
don't want.
protesters outside the prime minister's home there, they're, asking for anything to be done to get their, hostages back from Gaza. How stupid can they be? They don't even pay attention, to the obvious facts here, that their hostages, their families are being bombed by their own government. And they don't even say anything about it, It's incredible.
Absolutely. I don't know if I said that before, but I may remind you in 2014, when a Zionist force was caught and encircled by the freedom fighters of Gaza, the Israeli Air Force came and bombed the hell of everybody, including those they lost, I don't know, either 6 or 14, I can't remember the number, of Israeli soldiers have been murdered by their own. They have this doctrine called Hannibal doctrine, which is supposed to be that if one or few of our soldiers get caught as prisoners of war by the enemy, which could be Hezbollah or the resistance in Gaza, murder them all. We don't want any prisoners because we don't want to exchange them with their prisoners. So murdering 50 prisoners, whether they know it or they don't know it, it's part of their doctrine of murdering prisoners. But I believe the most important assets of the PWs, they are deep inside tunnels, especially those 4 generals and over 100 or 200 Israeli soldiers. These are assets because the resistance will not free them before certain conditions met, which is like justifiable conditions like lifting the siege, rebuilding Gaza, persecutions, free all the Palestinian abductees in the Zionist jails. So there's lots of things the Zionists have to meet, and that's a humiliation to them. So, but the 50, I believe they are dual citizens being murdered by the heroic Israeli Air Force.
Since October the 7th, 1,000 Palestinians have been arrested in the West Bank. 1,000.
Actually, the number is more than that.
More than that now, probably.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're just going crazy. They just, if I am there now, if in the West Bank, I'll be arrested. Being a political activist, I am not a military guy. I don't belong to any group. However, because of my, let's say, activism like this, if I'm talking to you from the West Bank, okay, I'll be arrested right away. I'll be put in jail. It's like what they did in North America during the Second World War for the Japanese people, rounding them up and put them in jail. They cannot arrest 3.5 million Palestinians in the West Bank, but they will arrest people like me who will speak out against their terror campaign against Gaza, and of course on the West Bank as well.
Yes. I saw a very interesting interview of a mother and a daughter, okay? The mother was saying, to Netanyahu, use any means necessary to get our, family back, Then the daughter speaks and she says, I'm not political, but I think that, the way to get our hostages back is by releasing all these 6,000 Palestinian prisoners. I'm not.
That's not even
so
enough.
I don't care.
No. They are saying
generational difference. Like there is showing up finally.
Even the war criminal Shaul Mofaz, he used to be the defense minister and prior chief of staff. He said to Netanyahu that if it means to release all the Palestinian prisoners, let it be. Let's bring our people back. So, but they don't know that is not it's not just exchange of prisoners. There's lots of conditions attached to this issue, because this is going to be the last war between Gaza and the Zionists, and I don't see it's ending to their favor. And the only, if they consider the murder and destruction of civilians as a victory, well, they're no better than Hitler.
Yeah.
But that's not a victory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, my impression of this whole offensive by Hamas is this. Okay.
Oh, by the way, I have to make a correction. It's not Hamas, only Hamas. Hamas spearhead the attack.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's the attack was actually the middle and north frontier was taken care by Hamas. But the other frontiers were it's given to the PFLP, DFLP, Al-Quds brigades, and Al-Jihad Al-Quds platoons. So it was the Palestinian resistance altogether.
Really?
But they like to, yeah, oh yeah, definitely. It's not just Hamas.
That's very advanced organization. Yes.
Oh yeah. So you're talking about, okay, yes, Hamas has about 40,000 soldiers, okay, but the others, they have another almost the same number of Hamas. So like Hamas, yes, they spearhead the attack on the Gaza division of the Zionist army. But the rest, they took care of other important parts of the frontier. And they did the same work as Hamas. So let's not talk about as Hamas. It's let's call it as the resistance, Palestinian resistance that include everybody.
And popular resistance as well. Popular resistance committees.
Oh yeah. It is a resistance. And for your information, that just 1 hour after the attack, or a coordinated attack on October 7th, many people joined with their, arms. So it was a popular uprising. It's the ghetto uprising.
Yes.
It's the war to ghetto uprising of the 21st century.
Yes. And, in 1947, Gaza was twice as big as it is now.
That's right.
According to the partition plan.
That's right.
It was supposed to be, twice as wide, and also another section in the north.
Yes, right.
And the section, that was allocated by the UN partition plan included all the Palestinian villages that were around the Gaza there.
That's right.
When the Zionist militias came in there with their genocidal campaign of ethnic cleansing in 1947, they pushed back. About the 10 Palestinian villages were evacuated, and the refugees were pushed into the Gaza of the frontiers that we now know. The offensive of the resistance, October the 7th, was going to take back the towns that were taken in 1947.
True, indeed.
Yes. So, the motivation is obvious there, and to say that this was an invasion, the Zionists claimed that it was an invasion, of their territory to kill, as many Israelis as possible, is obviously not the motivation involved here. It's, it's a question of the recuperation of, the lands and the towns that had originally been Palestinian in the first place.
Yes. I mean, yes, there's the attack was coordinated, but I think the main trigger of this coordinated attack is breaking the big prison wall to tell the world this is enough. We're not going to take it anymore. And they attacked the prisoner guards. It's like Auschwitz, people breaking through the barriers and killing the Ukrainian and Polish guards who were guarding the Auschwitz. So no matter what Israel spin this, it's the ugly facts persists. 1948 was the beginning of such war. It did not start on October 7th.
That's right.
On this note, I will not apologize nor condemn my people for such attack on their oppressors. There was no rape. There was no decapitating of babies. There was no burning of bodies. It was only attacking the Gaza division of the Zionist army, who most of them ran away from their positions, and who left, tried to fight back, and they were killed. Yes, maybe there was some execution of the prisoners, but that's justified to them. I don't know if it's to me. I don't know. I was not there. What happened? But most of those people, you saw them in pictures, young men. They're not the ones who were at the rave party. They were mostly our soldiers. They just woke up, tried to get their weapons, and they were liquidated, as they liquidate our people in their homes on the West Bank every day for the past 56 years.
Yes.
So
and they're soldiers. They're soldiers. They're not even civilians, you know.
Exactly.
And they're the soldiers on the frontier of Gaza that were shooting civilians demonstrating during the Great March of Return.
Oh, yes. Yeah, over 200 people. They killed them. They murdered them.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit here and say, I condemn Hamas. No, it's not. I'm not condemn anybody. This is ugly. And who started the whole thing is the Zionist occupation of Palestine in 1948, ongoing to 1967 and ongoing to 2007, when the Zionists decided to change the name of Gaza Strip to the world's biggest open-air prison. No apologies here. The world has to stop, to intervene and stop the new 21st century Nazis of running huge Auschwitzes in Gaza and the West Bank. Enough is enough.
And they're supporting the Nazis in Ukraine as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. It's known. I mean, the cooperation between the Zionists and the Nazis, they gloat about it. In 1933, they had an agreement with the Nazis to bring all the rich Jewish Germans to Palestine with their money and just keep the poor. We don't need them now at this moment. So there's a lot of people.
They sacrificed 1 million German Jewish lives for 60,000 Zionists who had to pay
with their money. Exactly with their money. So the Zionists are the last people on face of earth to talk about how the Nazis were bad and they're anti-Semitic, all that bullshit. They are the worst of the worst. Them and the Nazis are the same and equal footing in the garbage bin of history.
The rave party is a very important sort of matter, because everybody knows about this rave party that was attacked.
Yes.
At the last moment, the site of the rave party was moved right next to the military base, and so of course the paragliders were coming to the military base to attack the military base.
Yes.
And who were these rave party goers? They're the soldiers.
They're Israeli.
They're the age, of, because they have conscription. Everybody should know there's conscription in the Zionist state, for both, young men and young women, and that's who was at the party. I saw, as I mentioned to you before, like I saw the one video, of the woman soldier dancing with her military pants on and her black bra,
Yes.
And the paragliders coming in the background. So, I mean, there were soldiers.
I understand what the freedom fighters were doing. They're attacking Israeli soldiers, whether they're active soldiers or reservist soldiers, because in so-called Israel, between brackets, Israel, the Zionist entity, you are a soldier reservist for the rest of your life until the age of 40, 45 or 50. Okay. Except with some exceptions. Okay. For a woman who gets married, she has children, then she stop being a reservist. But she will do something called the national duty, like whatever, like we call it here, neighborhood watch, So everybody is part of the military one way or another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they've all been educated, to be militarized, a militarized mentality.
Absolutely.
And and they take them into the military right after high school. So they don't even know how to think yet, They just get trained in the military and they get trained to obey, basically.
Oh yeah.
And then, what hope is there, for them to become independent thinkers afterwards, very little.
They're actually in the Zionist entity since their childhood. They feed in them this brainwashing of us versus them. So they teach children on bombs, on weapons, and everything. So by the time of you're 18 years old, ready to go to the army, you're already brainwashed. With the very few who are not, they resist that brainwashing. They call them the refuseniks, who refuse to join the army on humanity ground. And they're just few and far in between people. But the vast majority just go into the army with pleasure.
Yeah.
To kill Arabs. That's what they say. So I have no sympathy to those rave party goers. They were squatting on our land. They're colonists. And they will, like in a few hours, if they did not, been liquidated, I use the Israeli word, liquidated, they will carry arm and fight our people. So it's a war. It's a war between us, the people, the rightful owners of Palestine, and with the colonists, squatter colonists who came from everywhere from the world. So it's too bad, but if anybody to bear responsibility for what happened to the civilians in and around Gaza, it's the Zionist state and the Zionist movement, whether in Palestine or worldwide.
I'm especially concerned at this moment, because yesterday the communication facilities were bombed, destroyed. There's no communication with Gaza anymore.
Yes,
which is the perfect condition for them to commit, genocide. This is what they want. This is the precondition. This is an indication that they intend to go ahead with the genocide.
Yes, but it's not 1945 anymore or 1982 anymore. There was a big campaign to ask Elon Musk to allow his link, I don't know what's the name, Starlink communication. And he responded right away to allow all the international and human and medical organization in Gaza to use his Starlink, which was excellent work of solidarity worldwide. And then so funny, the Egyptian companies offered also to the communication and the internet to the Palestinians. So this morning in Palestine, the Zionists restored the internet and the communication to so on this front they've been defeated sorely, yet also with a bad taste from the world towards them, that how dare you. And one more thing, most of the people who've been asked to leave Gaza to the south, they return back home because if we're going to be killed in southern Gaza, we might better be killed in our own homes. This is very sad irony, but they are losing this front of trying to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians. That doesn't mean that there's 1.5 million Palestinians already displaced within the Gaza Strip. That's a human catastrophe. You're talking about men, women, people sick, elderly, special needs, you name it.
With no help whatsoever.
No, absolutely no help. They're living on very, very little. It just reminds me of the Leningrad siege.
Yes,
which we will overcome. We will overcome. My people are strong, are united, and they know the Nakba of 1948 is not going to happen again, no matter how much bombs the Zionists drop on our people. But we will stand tall and together, and will never leave our country again. Never again. This is never again.
That's right. Yes, never again.
Never again a Nakba.
Yes. Very good. That's good to conclude on that note. And we will see each other again next week and bring people the news that breaks through the censorship that everyone is facing.
Thank you, Abraham.
Next, we have Rabbi speaking for Gaza in Albany, New York. Rabbi David Feldman from Neturei Karta International speaking at a protest for Gaza in Albany, New York on October 29th.
Assalamu alaikum. We are standing here today in the city of Albany, where we have people around the globe standing up for Palestine. It's because we are humans. We are deeply disturbed by this ongoing genocide, this mass murder of innocent men, women, and children. It should disturb every right-minded person, and we should at least speak up and do everything we can to stop this. My name is Rabbi David Feldman with Neturei Karta International, a Jewish movement internationally opposing this occupation from its very beginning. It's because we are Jews and we know that this occupation is against our religion. Killing and stealing, oppressing an entire people is not only a crime in international law, but is a true crime in Judaism. It happens to be that even without all these crimes, this philosophy of Zionism is a secular concept which is in total contrast of basics of Jewish belief. But it is because we are Jews. It was our families, our communities who suffered in the Holocaust. We know what suffering is, and we don't want to see this happen to anyone. Especially we are disturbed. Jewish people the world over are embarrassed when all of this is being done supposedly in our name. And on top of all, the Jewish religion sadly is being misused by a movement which is officially secular, refuses to follow the Jewish religion, and misuse that very same religion to justify crimes forbidden in that religion. This is true hypocrisy. As Jewish people, we join all peoples of the world to speak up and condemn this genocide, which didn't start today. It didn't start on October 7th. We have to realize, as the Secretary General of the United Nations said, that what happened on October 7th did not come out of a vacuum. This was an outcome, a result of 75 years of brutal occupation. We don't condone any violence, but we have to face reality. Obviously, this siege has to stop today. This is something that everyone understands. Yes. Stop the siege now. Stop the siege now. But stopping the siege is not all what we need. We need way more than stopping the siege. We need to realize when we have this terrible suffering going on, where we have decades, a cycle of bloodshed on all sides, suffering of so many peoples involved. We need to realize what is the root cause of all of this. We all know this. The root cause is not the difference of religion. We had differences of religion for a very long time. Way before the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, way before the 1920s when the Zionist philosophy first came up to the Holy Land. We lived in peace prior to the 1920s. Why? Because it's our peoples who respected and protected each other in many Muslim countries. And one beautiful example was Palestine. We have to remember that history. We have to use this as an example, how it can look, how it should look in the future. And we have to realize what is the obstacle to peace. The obstacle to peace is this unending brutal occupation of Palestine, which has to stop in its entirety. We are standing here in Albany, New York. We plead with our government. We plead with people throughout the world. Please wake up. Realize and understand what is going on, what is happening, and what is behind it. What is the cause to all of this? For the sake of humanity, we have to stop this. For the sake of the suffering people of Palestine, it's about time to stop this occupation now. And it's about time to wake up. If people think that the state of Israel is possibly a safety and security for the Jewish people, well, we appreciate some politicians that might be, sorry to say, ignorant, and they might have some sympathy for the Jewish people, which obviously everybody appreciates that. But supporting Israel is not even a support for the Jewish people. It is unfortunately causing so much death and destruction to all, including the Jewish people. We have to stop this in its entirety. Once this obstacle to peace will stop, we can hope, we pray to Almighty God that this stops peacefully, with no more suffering of anyone involved. And then we hope to God that we will be able to see once again that beautiful peace. Let's hope we see this soon in our days. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more. Occupation no more. 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. Israel is not a Jewish state. Israel is not a Jewish state. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. State of Israel no more. State of Israel no more. 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. Stop the killing. Stop the hate. Stop the killing. Stop the hate. Thank you very much.
This has been Not in Our Name, part 2 of 2. I hope everybody has been a little bit more informed after seeing all of this. As before, I'll leave you with a really great AJ Plus finale. This one came out on September 20th, 2019.
It's a weird time to be a Jew in America. One might assume that the biggest threat to American Jews would look like this, or this. So why are elected officials and the mainstream media and even some American Jewish institutions constantly telling us that the biggest threat to Jews looks like this? Hi, I'm not Francesca Fiorentini, and today we're going to discuss how the right-wing narrative of left-wing anti-Semitism is used to uphold white supremacy. We're going to have some fun. Anti-Semitism is on the rise in America. Jews were the direct target of half of all extremist homicides last year. Right-wing extremists were responsible for the Tree of Life synagogue shooting, the Poway synagogue shooting, and to add insult to injury, Mel Gibson is not only back doing movies, but he's reportedly doing a biopic on the Jewish banking family, the Rothschilds, who, if you Google, you'll find nothing but conspiracy theories about. That's insane. It would be like if the next season of Planet Earth was narrated by a flat earther. The emperor penguin must avoid the hungry leopard seal who guards the edge of the earth, which is actually shaped like a plate because NASA lies to you. There seems to be a strange pattern around the narrative of anti-Semitism in the media. Every time there's an anti-Semitic attack, people will cover the white supremacist anti-Semitism responsible for it for a couple of days, followed by weeks of, well, have you heard about left-wing anti-Semitism though?
And the rise of anti-Semitism and bigotry inside the Democratic Party.
In Democratic circles, anti-Semitism is becoming normal.
Anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism of some parts of the left, that seems a lot closer to the heart of the Democratic Party than to the heart of the Republican Party.
We gotta go. I'm getting counted down, you guys, but that was a really cheery segment, so thanks a lot. Both sides are horrible.
Mostly your side, though. In our Newsbroke episode about why anti-Semites love Israel, which you should watch next, I explain how the right wing has effectively changed the definition of anti-Semitism from hatred of Jews to criticism of Israel, making it incredibly easy to accuse people who advocate for Palestinian rights of anti-Semitism. Remember, arguing against Israeli policy is not anti-Semitic. If it was, that would make literally every Jewish family get-together a hate crime. Hello? Is this the ADL? Yes, I would like to report my grandson! In this episode, we're going beyond that and looking at how the right-wing scare tactics around Israel are being used to divide American Jews, create distrust of anti-racist organizing, target black and brown people, distract from the occupation, and ultimately weaken efforts against real anti-Semitism. Oh yeah, the propaganda around Israel is a whole damn espresso machine of intolerance. So would you like 2 shots of Islamophobia or just all anti-black? First, we need to look at who the right wing is accusing of anti-Semitism. Let's start with Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, the first 2 Muslim women ever elected to the US House of Representatives, with Tlaib being the first Palestinian American congresswoman ever. They both have been accused of using anti-Semitic tropes, or old Jewish stereotypes used to denigrate Jews for centuries, mostly through bad faith readings of their tweets. First, Omar was attacked for questioning Israel's influence on American politicians, tweeting, "It's all about the Benjamins, baby."
Ilhan Omar's tweet was seen as using anti-Semitic tropes.
It's a historic anti-Semitic trope. It's all about the Benjamins, a known anti-Semitic trope.
Is it? Does Diddy know? Someone should tell Diddy. Then, when Representative Tlaib tweeted about a Senate bill that would restrict Americans' rights to boycott Israel, and Omar called out the Israel lobby's influence, they were both accused of using the dual loyalty trope, the idea that Jews are more loyal to Israel than the nation they currently live in.
Rashida Tlaib waltzed into this trope herself, this idea of dual loyalty.
And then there was Omar's unearthed 2012 tweet in which she said, "Israel has hypnotized the world," which was met with this.
An elected U.S. member of Congress suggesting, quote, evil Jews were hypnotizing the world.
Hypnotized by Israel's sort of anti-Semitic tropes she keeps trotting out.
Okay, here's the thing. Jewish hypnosis is not one of our tropes. We have a lot of tropes, okay, but that's not one of them. At best, it's a deep cut, right next to Jewish double dipping or Jewish road rage. Like, why are we making up new stereotypes to hate Jews with? I saw a Jew jaywalking the other day. Typical. Here's the thing though, neither Omar nor Tlaib's critiques say one word about Jews. They specifically mention Israel. When Omar's talking about the Benjamins, she's not saying Jewish money, she's talking about the incredibly well-funded Israel lobby, which in 2018 spent over $22 million on lobbying and contributions, and which receives money from, yes, some Jews, but also from evangelical Christian groups, who would really like it if we'd all just moved to Israel already. Honestly, I don't want to move to Israel, okay? I've already done ketamine in Tel Aviv. Been there, done that. I'm over it. Accusing American politicians of being more loyal to lobbyists than their own constituents is not an anti-Semitic trope. It's literally the stump speech of anyone who has run for president ever. But when it comes to the Israel lobby, it's automatically assumed to be a trope. But here's the thing though, dual loyalty is exactly what the Israeli establishment, pro-Israel American institutions, the right wing, and yes, many in the Democratic Party are constantly demanding from American Jews. My dad demands this as well. Chuck Schumer helped pass an anti-BDS bill making it legal for states to prosecute companies for boycotting Israel, and then said this at the AIPAC conference this year.
I will always stand with Israel against those who seek to do her harm by boycott or by any other means. And we will fight to protect the Jewish people here in America and in the state of Israel, in America and in Israel.
But what about protecting Jewish people in America who want to boycott Israel. Drafting bills criminalizing our right to boycott and claiming it's what American Jews want is straight up imposing dual loyalty onto American Jews. That would be like making it illegal to boycott Olive Garden by saying, we must fight for our Italian American brothers and sisters and their insatiable need for unlimited soup, salad, and breadsticks. We must show them that in America, when you're here, you're family. American Jews who don't fall in line behind pro-Israel candidates are met with attacks on their loyalty and even attacks on their Jewishness.
The question I'm most often asked is why Jews vote leftist. The answer is simple. The vast majority of Jews don't care about Judaism or Israel. They care about secular leftism, which is their actual religion.
I'm Ben Shapiro, Jew police. And then there's Trump, who is constantly conflating Jews with Israel, even going so far as to call Benjamin Netanyahu your prime minister in a room full of American Jews. Despite a long history of doing tropes himself, he jumped at the chance to paint himself as deeply offended by Omar and Tlaib's supposed use of tropes.
The Squad. We don't like when they talk about evil Jews. Representative Ilhan Omar has a history of launching vicious anti-Semitic screeds.
Yeah, nothing says I hate bigotry like a crowd full of people chanting send her back. I love how Trump always finds the opportunity to be racist even when he's supposedly condemning racism. Ilhan Omar hates Jews because of the extra muscle in her calf, the one that helps her jump so high. Trump's vendetta against the Squad just kept ramping up until he finally used his presidential tweeting powers to ask Netanyahu not to let them into Israel, a move which went too far even for the pro-Israel lobbying group AIPAC. And then when asked to defend himself, Trump made it clear that I and the other 70% of American Jews who didn't vote for him should be more grateful. Wait, was grateful the word?
And I think any Jewish people that vote for a Democrat, I think it shows either a total lack of knowledge or great disloyalty.
He said loyalty, dual loyalty. Send him back, send him back, send him. Where is everyone? Wait, was he talking about Jews being disloyal to him or Israel? Because it might not be anti-Semitic. I mean, I don't want to do like a bad faith reading of what he was saying.
I think that if you vote for a Democrat, you're very disloyal to Israel and to the Jewish people.
Okay, well, again, he didn't say that Jews are disloyal to Israel if they vote Democrat, so there's a chance he's not including Jews in that statement?
If Jews vote for Democrats, are they being disloyal to Israel? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I'd say so, yeah.
Tie. The crazy thing is, Trump doesn't think he's being anti-Semitic because he's just saying out loud what the pro-Israel establishment has been signaling for decades, that Israel is the only thing Jews care about if they are indeed good Jews. He's got the brain of a really honest 6-year-old telling his mom, I don't know what daddy's talking about, you clearly gained weight. In Trump's mind, he is being loyal to American Jews by being staunchly pro-Israel, but in reality, neither Trump nor Israel are loyal to American Jews. They're loyal to each other. The Israeli government has defended Trump every time the American Jewish community calls him out on his anti-Semitism. Like after the Tree of Life shooting, when Jewish groups protested Trump's visit to Pittsburgh, the Israeli Minister of Diaspora Affairs, Naftali Bennett, took the time not only to defend Trump, but throw shade at American Jews, saying, President Trump is a true friend of the state of Israel and to the Jewish people. With President Trump, we never have to worry if he has our backs. Bennett and Trump are clearly a perfect fit because they both say friend when they mean arms dealer. But it makes sense. The Israeli government is happy to support an American president who deals in anti-Semitism so long as he helps further their project of subjugating the Palestinian people. But what's in it for Trump and the rest of them? If they don't actually care about anti-Semitism, why do they spend so much time and energy trying to smear others as anti-Semitic? Well, if you have a keen eye, you may have noticed a very subtle pattern regarding many of the people the right labels as anti-Semitic. It's very subtle. While the right seems to be immune from accusations of anti-Semitism, being accused of left-wing anti-Semitism while female, black, brown, or Muslim actually has consequences. Take Mark Lamont Hill, a now former CNN commentator who used the phrase from the river to the sea during a 22-minute speech at the UN speaking out for Palestinian human rights.
Free Palestine from the river to the sea. That's right out of a Hamas script that calls for the annihilation of Israel.
Yeah, but it doesn't though. If you actually look into the history of that phrase, it isn't actually a call to drive Jews into the Mediterranean. It's simply a common saying from the Palestinians longing for a unified country again instead of something that looks like this. But of course, CNN couldn't be bothered to deal with the whole context thing. You know, it's only their f***ing job. It was just easier to fire Hill. And then there's civil rights activist and icon Angela Davis, who won a prestigious civil rights award and then had it rescinded last minute due to her pro-BDS stance. Now, she did end up getting the award in the end, but imagine giving someone an award for civil rights activism and then taking it away because she's still doing civil rights activism. That's like taking away Miss America's crown because she actually did accomplish world peace. And it's not just individual activists getting smeared. Sometimes it's the entire movement. For example, Black Lives Matter is constantly being attacked for their support of BDS and their solidarity with Palestinians.
Black Lives Matter, a group that just a couple of weeks ago launched an entire anti-Israel platform.
I care about Black lives. I've devoted my life to protecting Black lives, but I will not support the organization Black Lives Matter because I have zero tolerance for anti-Semitism.
Honestly, I cannot look at that man's face without thinking about that clip where he denies having sex with any of Jeffrey Epstein's underage girls by claiming that he has a
perfect sex life.
Hell yeah. Go off, King. The right has even called activists protesting the ICE camps anti-Semitic. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez called them concentration camps, which prompted Stephen Miller, the only Jew I know who says Jew with a hard J, to say this.
I'm a Jew, as an American Jew. I am profoundly outraged by the comments from Ocasio-Cortez. It is a historical smear. It is a sinful comment. It minimizes the death of 6 million of my Jewish brothers and sisters. It minimizes their suffering.
Your existence minimizes their suffering, dude. I'm pretty sure Stephen Miller's uncle called the ADL on him. Hello, is this the ADL? I'd like to report my nephew! The pro-Israel establishment has been using the fear of anti-Semitism to stop American Jews from supporting the very people and movements that are actively fighting against perpetrators of anti-Semitic hate crimes in America. People who are fighting white supremacy, people who are fighting for our rights to boycott, people who are fighting to abolish concentration camps. They want us to feel unsafe in left spaces, unsafe on college campuses with activists who are fighting for the civil rights and equality for Palestinians because they've convinced us that a criticism of Israel is an attack on Jews. To take the bait that the right is dangling in front of us, to believe their claims of left anti-Semitism, is not just counterproductive to dismantling anti-Semitism, but actively upholds white supremacy. And to be honest, it worked for a long time. I mean, I used to be very wary of anyone who criticized Israel, especially if they weren't Jewish. But if the last 3 years has shown us anything, it's that white supremacy has always been the biggest threat to Jews in America. Omar and Tlaib don't scare me. Criticism of Israeli policy doesn't scare me. The people shouting, "Send her back," scare the bejesus out of me, or the bemoses. Thankfully, more and more people are starting to understand that criticism of Israeli policy is not automatically anti-Semitism, which is why every time the right smears an Israel critic as anti-Semitic, they now preface it with, of course you can criticize Israel, but...
You can criticize Israel, you can believe Israel is wrong on everything, but when...
We can criticize Israel, no country is perfect, that's definitely for sure, but...
We can have conversations all day long about how you feel about Palestinian politics, how you feel about Israeli politics, how you feel about Netanyahu,
But we never end up having that conversation, do we? Because it only takes one bad faith reading of a critique to claim anti-Semitism and derail the entire conversation. Also, did Meghan McCain just say Netanyahu? I think she's confusing Netanyahu and Nosferatu, which means that she just confused a Jew with a blood-sucking vampire. Blood-sucking is an anti-Semitic trope referring to the fear that Jews bake their matzah with Christian blood. Therefore, Meghan McCain is an anti-Semite. See how easy that is? Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching News Broke on AJ+. My name is Matt Lieb. Follow me on Twitter @MattLieb, and also follow me on Instagram @MattLiebJokes. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and go in the comment section and tell me what conversation should we be having about anti-Semitism and about Israel, and are concerns about anti-Semitism preventing you from speaking up about the plight of Palestinians? And check us out next week. I'll be hosting again next week. So sorry, Francesca will be back. But next week, we're talking about Universal Basic Income, or UBI. Yang Gang is gonna hate me.